right, guys, welcome back to the CrossFit Rife podcast, where we talk about the pursuit of health and happiness via CrossFit. I'm here with Mr. Todd Savage. He's a member of our North End location, been CrossFitting. How many years have you been CrossFitting?
I keep telling everybody 10 years, but I've been saying that for the last 3 or 4. So I started at CrossFit Obsession back on Lynnhaven.
But it's legit 10 years, though.
At least, yeah.
You might have been CrossFitting longer than me. What year did you start?
10 years ago.
I started in 2008.
So it may have been longer than that, because I took a little bit of a break from it because I had a bad experience.
We can talk about that later.
But do you remember CrossFit Rife with Brendan?
CrossFit Obsession.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's not confuse the two.
I'm sorry, yeah. See, I've already.
I do.
So when did you start?
That's kind of a rabbit hole. I mean, he started probably right around the same time that we started, maybe. Well, so actually he started way before we did, because he was at CrossFit Santa Cruz with Greg.
But here.
Like way back. So, I mean, he started here probably at least in 2007, maybe earlier.
So it may have been about 2008, 2007.
Yeah, so probably right around the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew you've been doing it a while. I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah.
You don't find many people that have been CrossFitting 10 years these days.
Right.
Which is cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, we went in, there was like 30 of us. We were all friends. We carpooled over 5:30 in the morning. And
30 people carpooled?
Yeah. That's the way it started.
That's amazing.
I mean, 4 or 5 cars, of course.
Yeah.
But
I didn't think 30 people in one car.
And we went into the ADS warehouse there on Lynnhaven.
Yep.
And he put us through it.
The old training center.
Very little instruction, some instruction, no just scaling, and do all the reps. And
that was it back in the day.
30 went to 10 or 12 very quickly.
I would imagine.
People got hurt and didn't enjoy it. And
unfortunately, that is just kind of the way that it was back in the day. Like, we didn't know we didn't know.
Right.
It's just like, hey, you're just going to do it. And if you don't do it that way, then tough.
Yeah. Nope.
Okay.
Most of us hadn't done a rope climb when you did rope climbs, and people were tripping on the ropes, spraining their ankle from jumping off from 4 feet off the ground.
Sounds like such a fiasco.
It was a fiasco. Yeah. Total fiasco.
CrossFit's come a long way.
So I evolved in that atmosphere for a while because I kind of enjoyed it. I got the bug early because I'd worked out in the static gym for so many years, and that got boring. But then I started getting hurt, and it wasn't fun.
What were your injuries?
Shoulders, knees, stuff like that.
Okay.
And,
typical stuff.
Typical stuff, yeah. But when I started CrossFit, I had a really bad shoulder. I started playing a lot of tennis when I got out of college, and just developed a bad shoulder.
Did you play tennis growing up?
Just socially.
Casually?
Just casually, yeah.
Okay.
I was a golfer growing up since I was 10. But so it didn't get any better. So I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I'll go back and do something else. And for about a year, I just didn't do any CrossFit. Some of the guys stayed, and I came back to Obsession again. He'd already left. That's when he kind of exited out of the area.
Very abruptly.
Very abruptly. And so they rebranded themselves a bit with some better trainers, and that's what's sprungboard me into liking CrossFit again, because they were good trainers. They were concerned about your health.
So you kind of kept tabs on everybody, but didn't train with the group anymore.
Yeah. And a lot of those folks stopped in that year too. So it was a couple of people. Ben Willis, who works out with us at North End, he was there.
Oh, I didn't know he was back then too.
And Dudley Ware.
Got it.
Anyway, so there's some guys.
Okay.
And so my really bad shoulder over 5 or 6 years got better and better and better.
Really?
Yeah, I went from.
I mean, I'm not shocked.
I went from doing an overhead squat. Could hardly do an overhead squat with a PVC pipe.
Not an uncommon story.
Couldn't get my hands close enough or far enough away, to progressing to slamming my hands as far to the plates as I could.
Collar to collar.
With the collar, just to now I'm
full internal rotation.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm easily 2 inches in from the
collars down
there. Yeah, and it's no shoulder pain. Now, if I go out and throw a baseball too hard, it'll hurt. But I used to have I had surgery on my left knee when I was in college,
What'd you have done on that one? ACL?
It was just some stuff broken off in there, floating around, and they did a orthoscopic stuff, and every injury that I would have, or every aches and pains that I would have from just overuse stuff, is pretty much gone. Now there's times when I strain my calf or do things because I'm pushing myself a little too hard or whatever, but rehabilitation-wise, CrossFit's the best.
Which is an interesting conversation because, so first and foremost, anybody who's watching this, the goal is to not train poorly. Right. So we want to train with ideal technique. However, there is a massive, I don't even want to call it subset of people, there's a massive group of people within the overall CrossFit community who, myself included, who came in and did not move well. Almost nobody moves well when you start CrossFit. Like, the movements are fairly complex. And who go through some kind of bumps and bruises, moving with less than ideal technique, and come out the other end feeling better. It's not the smoothest road, but I think there's something to be said for, A, the human body is incredibly resilient, but B, functional movements are safe, even when done incorrectly. We're not advocating that, but they're safe overall when done correctly. Like, the risk of injury is incredibly low. Like, you're far more likely to get injured playing basketball or kickball.
No question.
Like, it's not even a doubt. So,
I pull more hammies playing ultimate frisbee than I do CrossFit.
Do you play a lot of ultimate frisbee?
Not a lot, but a couple times a year when we go to our men's group for our church or something like that, and you go out and you do something you haven't done, and
that just gets a little. It just gets competitive.
It gets very competitive, and
That's why people tell me people ask me if I play basketball anymore, and emphatically the answer is no. I'm not going to be able to do that at half speed, and full speed almost undoubtedly was going to involve an injury. So I have basically resigned myself to sit on the sideline or just shoot around occasionally by myself. But
game of horse.
Maybe. Even that gets a little competitive sometimes. Cassidy and I did that at a level 1 recently, and if we'd had more time during lunch, that could have gotten out of hand. But
turned into 101.
Oh yeah. How did the Open go for you?
Good. It always hurts.
Always.
It's always a lot of nervous energy. I enjoy it though. I love it. I was telling Rob on Friday that I'm going to miss the camaraderie. That's what I like the most. Everybody coming together, Friday Night Lights, and meeting people that you haven't met before. You don't see that often because they go here, I go to the other location, and it pushes you for sure.
We need to do. It's something we've discussed within the staff is how to not necessarily replicate that, because I don't think you can, but do something more like that on a more frequent basis. Like just getting everybody together, or doing like some sort of. We've considered having some sort of like intramural Open like between class times. So like whatever you're a 9 a.m. or you're a 5:30 or whatever, and just do something, very, very friendly, like that, just to see. But I think it would get a little competitive there.
There's no question.
I would throw my hat in the ring for stuff like that all the time.
Sure.
But, what was the worst workout for you?
The last 19.5.
It was brutal. I still can't put my hands over my head.
Yeah.
It hurts.
I got into the 33 thrusters and got into like 22, and I was like, I feel really bad right now.
I'm only 4 minutes into this.
Yeah. Now, thrusters and overhead squats and so forth, for me, I kind of warm up in the workout a little bit. So this first couple, as the round of 21 was still painful, but I was looser, so I felt like I was moving more smoothly.
I feel the exact opposite. I'm feeling real fresh at the beginning, and as it goes a little bit longer, my fitness just rapidly fades away, and I just do a lot of resting. So
I think I carry my endurance mindset into CrossFit because I've done a bunch of half Ironman triathlons and marathons and things like that, and I've always been the person that goes out slower than maybe I should, and then build up to it.
That's not a bad plan.
And I kind of bring that into CrossFit a little bit. Like today's workout, I was probably slower the first round than I was the last round because
okay.
I have this ramp it up mindset as opposed to go, 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 and then fall off the cliff.
Yeah, it's 5 rounds, which
Yeah.
means it's about 1 round too many.
Right.
Yeah,
you guys
to give you a little
program
insight
those
in there.
things,
Yeah. That's what I consider almost perfectly programmed workouts. When you look at it, and it's like 6 or 7 rounds, and you tell yourself, "Man, 5 would have been sweet."
We all know Cassidy writes
6
it all down and goes, add,
Yeah.
add.
Well, sometimes we do that, and we look at it, and like, that's too short. But we definitely look at workouts, and I'm like, that's way too long. Like, that is going to just crush people.
Right.
So we'll rearrange. And we sat down last week and looked at the programming. But it's good. I wish I would have had somebody to do that with when I was writing programming years ago. Just like an objective set of eyes. Because there's a lot of things you'll write in programming that looks good on paper.
Right.
It's just an awful idea when you execute it. So I'm pretty happy with his programming.
Yeah.
I'm very happy, actually.
Yeah.
He does a good job with it.
I think all things done in a group or as a team are better.
It's definitely my experience is that what is a bad idea is I don't think you should do programming in a group. But I do think you should have one person who's primarily responsible.
Sure.
And then you run it through a filter just
Absolutely.
to get some eyes on it.
That's what I meant.
But I have seen, like in the level 1 and the level 2, more so the level 2 course, we do a group exercise. And that's always one of the things I lead with. I said, this is not how you should program. It's just too many cooks in the kitchen.
Right.
There's no reasoning behind the way people put things together. So our job in that scenario is to kind of filter all the things that people are throwing out to make sure that what we actually create for that week when we're doing that has some thought behind it, which can be pretty challenging because people just like to put stuff on paper.
Right.
And the question is always why? Why are you putting it on paper?
Yeah.
Like, what? You just like that? That doesn't mean it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But no, I think he's done a really good job. He has very much a knack for that.
Yeah.
He enjoys it. So
I really appreciate the monthly overview.
we started doing that. I don't remember when we started doing that, but it stuck. It's one of those things where we try it and we just want to see what the reaction is, and a lot of people really, really enjoy that. Just gives them a little insight. Back in the day, we used to withhold the programming. Just be like, no, you're not find out until 9 p.m.
Right.
And as I do this longer, it's just so stupid. Like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, and people want to know. They want to prep.
Yeah.
And sometimes it creates a little bit of excitement if they know what's coming down.
Absolutely.
Like, so.
It's interesting. Some people don't even want to look at it no matter how much you give it to them, though.
I genuinely, there's a couple people who they're just don't care.
Right.
And I love those people. They come in, they're like, "What's the workout today?" And I'm like, "I love you so much. I wish I could be like you and just not care and just come in here and be like, well, it is what it is."
Right.
Because then the other end of the spectrum is the people who, if it's not posted at 9 p.m., I get an email or a text like, "Hey, the workout's not posted." I'm like, "Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Don't worry. It's up. We didn't forget."
Yeah.
Technical difficulties, but
Right.
I love those folks. Like, just no care in the world.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, okay, cool.
I like the insight too, the night before insights too, because that really, I'm just an analytical person, and I like to know the stimulus that you're, particularly as a scaled athlete, which almost every workout scale for me.
I mean, we all
to
are at this
understand,
point.
like today, let's do this in 20 to 25 minutes. So it's a guessing game a little bit because it's not a workout you've necessarily done recently or can remember, but it still gives you an idea of, okay, let's pick this weight and pace and all that.
We've definitely gotten much more refined about articulating the intent over the years, and which is also something I really try to hammer home in the seminar settings is that simple action mitigates most of your athlete problems that you're going to have in the gym. The athlete who doesn't want to scale or who's resistant to doing whatever you want them to do, if you just tell people how it's supposed to go down, they'll buy in.
Yeah.
We have almost zero issues with that.
Yep.
And there's ways around that too, but we stole that idea from CrossFit.com. And it was a little hard to get the staff to buy in on like the value of it. but they all get it now. And we've had people that have joined the gym who they'll Instagram stalk us for 6 months, a year, just looking at those videos. And they'll come in once they finally kind of muster up the courage.
Right.
They're like, oh, I feel like I know everybody.
Yeah.
That's kind of why we do it. So
yeah, it's definitely value add for me, for sure.
That was the whole point of it was, and it does mitigate a little bit on our end as far as, not that we don't get long-winded in the brief sometimes, but it does allow people to have some time to wrap their brain around the workout. So they come in with less questions or more pointed questions that are very useful,
right,
that are super specific. So it definitely helps. And it's just, it's a good opportunity for the coaches to practice briefing. So
yeah, I think the other thing, sometimes you get two perspectives, because if Rob does the brief and Nicole does the workout, you get a couple of different perspectives on the workout. They're usually pretty consistent because you guys sort of control that, but I think
it's good to get the just different people's take on it. I mean, there's going to be what I would like to describe as like a different flavor on it, but the meal's the same. Just the spices are different. So
yeah.
When you were an endurance athlete, how many have you done any full Ironmans?
No. So I did two marathons to test the marathon waters. So I did Shamrock Marathon back in the 2009-ish, something like that. Okay. And it was not good. Of course, I didn't pace myself right. I ran with my neighbor, who's an elite not elite runner, but he runs. I paced off him the first half, and the second.
How'd that go? What was the first half? Do you remember?
1:53, which is not real fast.
It's pretty fast.
But so that was my normal half marathon pace, and then at mile 17 going up Shore Drive, just cramping like crazy all the way through Fort Story. The only reason I could run from 80th Street to 31st Street because you could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it was brutal. They wrapped me up in cellophane blankets and gave me orange juice, and I felt terrible. Felt absolutely terrible. So I was like,
day is one of the worst experiences of my life.
No Ironman stuff. I'm not doing it.
I don't think I could do that. Like I don't know if my body could take that. I did one marathon. I ran the Marine Corps Marathon, and I had a very similar experience. I think the first half was about an hour 41, 42, which is aggressive.
Yeah,
it's aggressive.
Yeah,
for a marathon, it's not fast, but it's aggressive for a marathon if you're not a runner. And I just had a full on. My body just melted down, and about same thing about mile 17. And I've never experienced this as an athlete, where my body just would not run. I wasn't dehydrated, nothing like that. I was telling myself to run, and it just wasn't happening. And it was really, really weird. I mean, we had about a mile left, and I remember there's like this, you go under this overpass.
You hit the Pentagon.
Yep, so you go under this overpass, and there's a little on-ramp where you have to go up.
Yep.
And in my mind, I was legitimately thinking, I don't know if I'm going to make it up that ramp. Like, even walking. I was just like, I don't know if my body's going to do that. But I made it 5 hours and 11 minutes.
And you had the final hill to hit.
Brutal.
I ran Marine Corps in 2013.
Brutal.
With pushing for Team Hoyt.
Okay.
And that was a wonderful experience. So good.
That's such a cool thing.
So good of an experience. Not only the event, but support
for Team Hoyt. Yep.
That I'll never do another one, because it'll never, for me, ever get that.
Just finish on a high.
And
that's cool.
Going through that park right outside downtown DC that has all of the fallen soldiers. I was hurting at that point, and what got me through that was reading every name on every sign, and there had to have been 300. And it took my mind completely off of the
that's cool.
off the running part until I hit the 14th Street Bridge, and it came back to me.
Did you know who you were pushing?
We knew ahead of time, yeah.
But you didn't know them personally or anything like that?
No, had met them, met his grandparents and the child. They were from Chesapeake, so we went over and introduced ourselves a couple times. And got
so for anybody that doesn't know about that, can you kind of elaborate on what Team Hoyt is?
Yeah, so Team Hoyt is a guy out of New England. Mr. Hoyt, I forget his first name at this point.
I don't remember his name either.
Anyway, he started taking his son into these events, and ultimately did Ironman events, pulling his son in a boat and and the swim.
It's
and,
the craziest. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It's amazing.
Yeah, and so there's a local chapter, and Trey White started. He's a dentist at the beach, and it's big. It's really big, and they do all kinds of events around here, 5Ks all the way up to marathons and things like that.
I'm pretty sure they have a presence at almost every race around here.
Yeah, they do.
Like, it's just it's such a cool thing.
Yeah.
I know quite a few people that have done that.
Yeah, and these kids just light up. I mean, I've done the rock and roll with Team Hoyt a bunch of times, and just to watch these kids just laughing and just you can just see the joy in their face.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So,
when was your last race?
It's probably been 4 years ago since I did rock and roll. Yeah,
And that's a half.
that's a half marathon. Yeah. I just kind of got away from it. I really like CrossFit. I still cycle a lot. In fact, probably do a 100-mile cycle in this fall with my brother and a buddy that Hunter Adams, who's now a member of North End. So we have a
Is he
Civil War
kid, right? Or no?
He's in his mid-40s.
Oh no, I'm thinking of. I know who you're talking about, but I was thinking of something else.
Yeah,
Tim brought in somebody else. His name was Adam. Yeah. Sorry.
Gotcha. Anyway, so we're talking about doing it's called the Civil War Century up in Maryland. So we hadn't done that in a while. So
How much do you ride during the week, like mileage wise?
when the weather's nice, probably like to get 100 miles. So a couple days, like a Tuesday. My typical workout week would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday CrossFit. Tuesday, Thursday, 25 miles early in the morning. Saturday, if I'm training for the Century, I'd probably be doing 50 to 60 miles on Saturday.
Does Greg ride with you?
Greg Battaglia?
Yes.
No, but he's a good athlete.
He rides, though, doesn't he?
He does a little.
Okay.
But he runs a lot.
Oh, okay.
Runs a lot.
I thought he was more of a cyclist.
Ben Willis cycles a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I did I do something stupid every couple of years, which is I'll do something of that nature on no training just to see if I can do it. I did it for the Marine Corps Marathon, and then I did it for the Trident Tour, where I did the last. So there's a gentleman who did. That's the jersey that we wore the last day.
I gotcha.
But he's a family friend, Mark, who started in Coronado and then rode all the way across. He went from Coronado to Virginia Beach, and I did the final day with him, and I hadn't been on a bike in like 2 years, and I was like, I'll just do a century. We got to the what's the bridge in? Is it Newport? I believe. It's not a huge bridge, but on a bike,
It's a bridge.
It's a bridge. So my quads just gave up and just full cramp.
Full on cramp.
Yeah. And we still had like 2 hours left.
Oh.
It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Right.
And then I everything was going good. I think we had maybe an hour left, and then I was exhausted, and and by this time we left at like 7 a.m. At this point it's like 4. So we're starting getting into the meat of like traffic and all that. So it gets stuck at intersections.
Right.
And anybody who's been on a bike has probably done this at some point. So we're at the intersection, and I push off, go to clip in, miss, go to clip in, miss, go to clip in, miss again. And at this point, I'm leaning the wrong direction, and I'm just
Fall
like
over.
right in the middle of traffic, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Happens to everybody.
Oh man, it's just like you're just so tired. You're like miss, and on the third one, you're like, if I don't get this, that's it. Like because I'm on the wrong side.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, that was like chain came off, everything. I was like, oh, I gotta get my life together, man. We gotta finish this ride. But yeah, it was a good experience. Like I think I forgot how much it hurts your butt.
Yep. There's a lot of things in cycling that hurt. Your hands, your neck starts to hurt.
Your neck starts to hurt depending on how you're sitting.
Yeah, it's a lot of things mentally in cycling long distance that hurt before your respiratory system or your legs hurt. It's other things that
I was never out of breath.
Yeah.
It's just the level of discomfort is just. That's why I can't really wrap my brain around why people ride so much. I'm like, it's just uncomfortable.
Gets better.
I don't know.
You get those
Maybe.
seat muscles. There's a few small seat muscles down there that.
Yeah, I felt them the next day, and I was like walking weird.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Then try to get on if you'd gotten on the bike the next day, you'd have really been painful.
Oh, I wouldn't even.
Yeah.
No way, not happening.
Thanks to the body.
So when's that Century ride?
It's early September. Yeah.
Oh, you get some time.
Yeah.
So you can ride all the way through the summer.
Yeah. That's the plan. So we get good weather to put the.
How long will that take you guys?
Well, there's a lot of climbing, so it's not like doing a Century in Chesapeake, which we've done a bunch of. It's probably 5. It might be 6 hours. Just because of the
sounds about
climbing.
right,
I mean,
though.
you're climbing.
Yeah.
Even if you're climbing, I think there's 7,000 feet of elevation. So I think
That's
you're
rough.
going 4 or 5 miles an hour for 15 minutes or so at a time.
That's
But you're going downhill
brutal.
pretty fast, which is kind of dicey too.
That can get
on brakes.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Until you've done that, I don't think people realize the margin for error when you're doing that is
So small.
not high. It is not high, and it just takes a fraction of a second for you to not pay attention or to look away.
You're in a bad situation.
Oh, super bad situation at high speeds with not a lot of protection.
I mean, you go literally from 35 to 50 miles an hour
Oh yeah,
in 10 seconds.
easily. Once you go into that downhill, if you
Relief,
take the brakes
yeah,
off. That happened to me on the backside of that bridge. I was like getting ready to go down, and then I started to get speed real quick. And it's weird because they have like these grates on the sidewalk too, which are just a disaster. And I had to pump the brakes on that really quick because that would have gotten terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets scary.
Yeah.
Really fast.
Really fast.
And we rode through Emporia, and there was a ton of road work being done, and just 18-wheelers just screaming by. Yeah, I'm glad I did it, but check that box. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Cool. So I want to talk a little bit about your man. You have a very, in my mind, a very unique perspective of CrossFit. So you have a decade of kind of seeing the evolution, both from inside CrossFit, but kind of as a spectator too, just as the whole thing.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that from a standpoint of like your training as well as just what you've seen from the overall community in that time?
Well, my training certainly has evolved from being less competitive as I've gotten older. I think in general, I don't let stress bother me nearly as much as I used to. I think that's just maturity, knowing that it just doesn't do any good to get so stressed out. But just the fact that I can embrace scaling much more.
Such a good spot to be
even
in.
on a simple workout like today, which I think I could have done RX, but I just didn't feel like I was going to be that healthy at the end of it if I tried it.
That's a good way to describe it. My health would go down.
My health would go down a couple notches. I'm okay with finishing middle of the pack, last if I have to, whereas I'd get stressed out if I, was not in the top 3 or tried to, run after those folks. That's probably the biggest evolution for me, and I just love it. I think, I came from a world where I was doing lots of triathlons, not all long distance, but the cross training part for me was much more enjoyable. Swim, go bike and then run, and that feeling of brick legs after riding and all that. I get a lot of that same stimulation from CrossFit. So for me, it was a natural progression, and I just love the camaraderie. I love the friendships that I've made with coaches, with I would have never known, Dana and Matt.
Yeah. And
they've been a huge influence in my life on many levels. It's a whole nother conversation. Lifelong friends that I've made. I mean, that's important. That's as important to me as the workouts.
I try to tell people I think it's more important.
Yeah.
Because it's not everybody's gonna do whatever they're gonna do for fitness or not do fitness, but like most of those relationships will stick.
Right.
Because they're pretty strong.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's there's a lot of people have come and gone. I'm not saying I'm one of the unique ones that have stuck it through for 10 years. It's just something I really enjoy.
Yeah.
My wife keeps telling me I'm addicted to CrossFit. I'm like, I'd rather be addicted to CrossFit than anything else, but I just love it. And there's times when I don't love it so much when I'm in the middle of a workout.
Ever.
But the feeling you get when you're done is awesome, and the high fives you get, and the camaraderie you have, and the friendships. And I horse around a lot more during workouts, particularly with my buddy John Doan.
He's the best.
He's the best. He was my judge for 19.5,
I need
and
to
I was
get
like,
him on the podcast.
"Oh
too.
my God, he's awesome." So, the evolution of friendships is been as important to me as the workouts.
What the embracing of scaling, I think, is this weird. It's cool when you get there, when you're just like, oh, none of this matters. It doesn't matter what weight I put on the bar. The point is just to come in here, move, and have a good time. And I feel like once you can get there, then you really start to reap the benefits of this whole thing. You understand it for what it is.
Right.
And do you remember when that was? Like when you kind of left the whole, I need to win arena, and you're just like, oh, I'm just here to, move.
I think it was probably soon after Dana moved the gym over to North End.
Okay.
And I think I'm blessed to have had the bad experience 10 years ago, to be able to reflect, to be mature enough now to reflect on that and go, that was not good, because I couldn't do what I liked to do for a year, because number one, I didn't like it. And then as I got back into it, as I would try to overdo it per se, I'd not be able to do it for 6 weeks, because I would be hurt enough where I just couldn't come in and do anything. So I think, but probably 4 or 5 years ago, I just really embraced it and said, hey, this is I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Rob and I were talking about it after Saturday's class, and he was telling me how he, really typically will scale the open workouts.
Mm-hmm.
He's a scaled athlete in the open workouts, and we hit it off. Same mindset. We're like, we want to do this. I'm 55. I want to do this when I'm 85.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm blessed enough to still be around here, at
as long
some
as
level.
You're smart about it. There's no reason that you won't be doing it in some form or fashion.
Right.
And that's the point. And that's what I would really, and I feel like we need to be better at communicating that. And I also kind of have the same mindset, and I also have the fortune of maturity, not just as an athlete but as a coach, where that is really what I try to emphasize to people, that it doesn't matter what weight you put on the bar.
Right.
It's irrelevant. It's an arbitrary number for all intents and purposes. We have to put something on there. But I, over the last 2 years, have really gotten to the point where I don't get suckered into the weights. Occasionally I do.
Occasionally you do.
You do. But I don't fall for that trap anymore. I'm very happy to scale.
Right.
Because if I don't, just like you mentioned earlier, there's repercussions for that. I'm going to be down hard for a couple days.
Right.
That's uncomfortable. I'm grumpy. I can't train. I'm even more grumpy. So
I think the other thing that supported my belief in scaling is knowing the stimulus, understanding the stimulus that you guys describe, as opposed to just, okay, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
And also knowing the way you guys set the weights for RX or RX Plus, what those athletes look like. So Rob was telling me Saturdays, if Froning comes into the gym, that RX Plus is for him.
Yeah.
And then if some regional athlete comes in, that stimulus at RX is generally for them.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it's scaled. It's scaled to the stimulus. And
I think there's a misunderstanding between the difference of what we would consider an advanced athlete and an elite level athlete. And the difference is, an advanced athlete is, we could more or less put them in a bucket of people who are competent with CrossFit. They understand the workouts, they understand the movements. It doesn't mean that they're advanced in their mechanics. It means that they're advanced in their maturity across the training of CrossFit. They understand what a snatch is. They understand what both good and poor technique look like. It doesn't mean they're going to demonstrate that every single time,
Right.
but they just have been in it for a while and they understand it. That's what I would consider an advanced athlete. An elite level athlete has both that experience, but is also an expert for the most part and very mechanically sound.
Right.
And I think a lot of people misinterpret the two. And they're like, oh, well, I can do that. Probably not.
Right.
And who cares? More importantly.
Yeah.
Like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
And I think that's something, again, over the years, and we've gone through multiple iterations of that where we have tried different ways to explain it. But I do feel we're in kind of a nice little sweet spot here as far as effectively communicating what is supposed to happen.
I think you are better than anybody any other gym that I've been to. And I've been to a lot of gyms just traveling and stuff. Never had this level of information, which for me is awesome.
I feel, and again, I have the good fortune of like making a lot of mistakes at this point, but I feel you're just leaving so much room for error if you don't do that. Somebody's going to misinterpret that.
Right.
Somebody is going to look at that, not understand it, think that it's something else. So one of the things I'll express to the coaching staff is there's two ways you can approach like trying to educate somebody on the stimulus. The first one is tell them what the stimulus is. The second thing, which it might be more important, is tell them what this stimulus is not. So I think people leave that out. And I think sometimes you just have to say it. This is not a 25-minute workout. If this starts to unfold to be 25 minutes, you've messed up.
Right.
So let's make the change.
Right.
And I think sometimes that can be more powerful than telling them what's supposed to be 12 minutes.
Right.
You know. So that anytime I've ever used that, everybody backs off the ledge immediately. They're like, oh, okay, because that was going to be 25 minutes for me, and I'm
Right.
like, okay, yeah, that's not the way it's supposed to go down. So,
Right. Yeah.
And it's funny, and I don't know why more people don't do that. It's a good idea is a good idea. Like we stole that from CrossFit, and I've talked to gym owners who say, well, yeah, but CrossFit does that. So what? That's like saying that you can't use the cue knees out because one person used it already.
Right.
A good idea is a good idea. So use it. And our members don't care who. I mean, they like Rory McKernan probably if they follow the Open and all those folks, but they don't care. They'd rather see our faces, quite frankly, and
Right.
because they know the coaches and they
Right.
want to hear that.
Right.
So I tell anybody who will listen, like, you should do that. Like, you should get on Instagram and do a WOD brief. You should do all that stuff. You should copy it all because it is a good idea.
Yeah.
And it's not our idea, you know. So
Right.
and people appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I appreciate is good coaching because I've had some not so good coaching. Mainly some pretty good coaching, but I mean, since you guys have purchased the gym, and I think Dana would agree, that y'all's coaches are phenomenal. And the fact that you train them to give us little cues, like there was a workout a week ago or so where it was muscle ups, but I scaled it to chest to bar pull ups. It was three.
Okay. Was it bar muscle ups?
Bar muscle ups,
Okay.
yeah. And so Nicole was teaching, and she said, just, you got to look at the sky when we're warming up, and I'm looking forward and pulling straight and all that stuff, not pulling like a ring row.
Mm-hmm.
And when she said that, all of a sudden I was able to string three chest to bar pull ups together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've never was able to do that before. I mean, I could maybe pull to here, but not to here. And at the end of the workout, she asked me as if I'd sandbagged the workout. Are you sure you've never had chest to bar pull-ups before? I said, Nicole, you told me to look at the ceiling, and I was able to get that stimulus was able to get 3 in a row, which was just a small cue. It's just instead of looking that way, looking up, and it's just little things like that.
It's little things.
Jake Virgili's done the same thing on some posture issues and make the bar feel like it's pulling off the floor for me because I don't have a lot of flexibility in my hips, rounded back from all the cycling and everything like that. And it's just a little cue. It's not like a major overhaul, which is really cool.
And that just comes with reps. I think, I've been doing this 11 years, and then I'm just constantly trying to get people to dig in and watch videos and read and copy what other people do. Like, again, a good idea is a good idea. So if it works, steal it, make it your own, figure out how to make it effective for the athlete.
Yeah.
But the point is that from a coaching standpoint, our job is to coach, not to cheerlead. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves is, and truth be told, that's a very easy rut to get stuck in. Like, there's some days when I'll look at a workout from a coaching standpoint and I'll say, this is going to be a hard workout to coach constantly throughout the workout, because let's say the movements are not highly technical. It's like, okay, well, I can mail this in and just cheer a lot. Or I could really dig in and really try to coach people on the burpee and make sure they move a little bit more efficiently.
Right.
And that's hard to do. And it's even more difficult to do if collectively the team is not trying to raise the bar on like what is effective coaching.
Right.
You know, and I think we're fortunate to have people who want to be better. So everybody's always trying to figure out better ways and more effective ways to do things. And, you know, everybody's always chipping in on ideas and sharing scaling options. And I just think that spreading that knowledge across the coaching staff, just it promotes learning.
Yeah.
And then once you've promoted it long enough, you don't have to. It's just something that just exists within the culture. So I think we're getting there. But it's interesting that you say good coaching, because I regularly had this conversation that most people would not know the difference. That's my contention. You know the difference because you've had bad, and then you've had what you consider to be good. Most people, when they walk into a CrossFit gym, have never had another experience, so don't know any different.
Right.
They just...
That's a good point. If all you've done is worked out, gone in and pulled a card out of the box and gone and done bench press and lat raises or whatever,
You don't know any different.
nobody's ever coached you before.
Nope.
Yeah.
And
So
you
you
don't
assume
know.
because there's a coach here, they're
expert.
brilliant.
They're expert.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, this is my knee. And I'm like, all right, you're the expert, you know. But that's something that maybe like 2 years ago, I had this weird epiphany that even though I do think we do have a good coaching staff, we fundamentally cannot hang our hat on that because it's subjective in nature. It is entirely predicated on the false assumption that the person who walks in the door knows what that is. And 99 out of 100 do not.
Right.
So over time they will, because you know our job is to be good at that. And then when they go somewhere else, they come back, they're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
But no amount of me telling somebody that is going to make any difference.
Right.
So we just don't really talk about it that much from a coach. Or like internally we talk about it a lot, but like externally we just don't really address it because it's kind of pointless. But it's interesting that you said that, because it's always funny to me. Most people just don't know, and they don't know what they don't know.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But I appreciate that. You know, I think the staff would appreciate it too.
Absolutely. And I appreciate being coached on the Metcon stuff, the non-technical. To me, it's all got technical stuff in it. Some of it has a higher level of technical ability or whatever, but it's all, I mean, a push-up to me has things that I've been adjusted to help take stress off my shoulders or move my hands around or whatever.
It all matters, you know. And I think it's just from a coaching standpoint, you dive down these rabbit holes of what does this athlete need right now at this very instant, and maybe leaving some other things out. We're like, okay, I could rearrange this entire position.
Right.
What really needs to happen is they just need to do that.
Right.
You know, they just need to turn their
Small
hands out a
tweak,
little. Small tweak. We'll get to the other stuff later, but if I can get them to turn their hands out in the push-up a little bit, that's going to bring their elbows in, and some of that shoulder pain will go away because now we're not internally rotated anymore.
Right.
But from a coaching standpoint, the hardest part as you progress is really trying to dial in what is only give this athlete what they need right now.
Right.
Because everybody goes through a period in their coaching career where you just are a glutton for information, and then all you want to do is give everybody all the information, which is a really ineffective way to coach people.
Info dump.
Yeah, so it's just like no, simple. Just but that just takes time, and we see that.
Another skill is as we all get older, we learn how to deal with people differently because everybody's different. Mm-hmm. You know, I've seen plenty of people in our gym before you guys bought it that could not take 1 ounce of coaching. A lot of those aren't
Really?
around anymore
Well,
for various reasons, but
it's okay.
yeah. So I think the coaches, having the ability to understand every individual a little differently. But I think when you do it the right way and you're, like you said, spoon feed them a little bit at a time, then they become to appreciate because they see how much better they become.
That's a tough one too. That's another one that tact. Like some people have that ability to navigate the scenarios very seamlessly. I would argue that most people don't, and then a lot of that is probably based on your age. As a younger coach, generally that's a head-on collision. Or as I get a little bit older, that now turns into a flanking movement where I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to have this battle with you. I'm going to get you to do what I want, but I'm not going to do this head on. I'm going to come at you from a different angle, and then you'll get there. But I've definitely had some headbutting with athletes in the early years, which could have been avoided. But we want athletes that want to be coached, and if you don't want to be coached, then probably not the gym for you. It's just people that don't want to. I just don't understand that. I don't know. Why are you here? Like, you're not that good. Nobody's that good that you don't need coaching.
Right.
So I just don't understand
anything
it.
in life.
Anything. So I don't understand the resistance to coaching. I understand you might not like it, but I don't understand the resistance to coaching.
I mean, I think if you can't be coached, CrossFit's not for you.
No.
I mean, go do cross training on the beach by yourself and look up a workout every day online or something and go do it that way. But if you don't want to be better, I mean, nobody's in there. They're not there to criticize you. They're there to make you better.
Yeah, you're not a bad person.
Yeah, it's not like,
You're just squatting with your knees in.
Right. And we want you to squat with your knees out so they don't hurt your knees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's generally what I have found over the years is egocentric, and those people don't last.
Right. Yep.
And that's okay. It's unfortunate because we want those people, but they're not going to fit in. So, they move on or they go to a gym that doesn't coach and they're happy.
Right.
And that's also okay.
Yeah. I just think the evolution of CrossFit in general, the opened armness of the community, even when I travel and go to other places, I've very rarely, pretty much never run into a place that I felt like I wasn't welcome.
It's such a crazy thing.
People are running it as a business, which is important. They want as many people to have access to CrossFit as possible. So change the way you do things from the way it was done to me 10 years ago.
Which is
your way, my way, meaning the trainer's way or the highway.
Yes.
Don't really care if you're here.
Correct.
I'm going to train you to be a games athlete or get out.
Well, what I think is kind of mind-boggling is that there are still gyms that operate like that.
I'm sure.
Operate that, like, I walk into a gym and in my mind, I'm saying to myself, this gym is straight out of 2008.
Mm-hmm.
There's been no evolution here. I can just tell by walking in the gym. I pretty much guarantee all the classes are going to go. I kind of know what the culture is going to be like. And I'm like, man, you guys are stuck in a time warp. We're like just not moving with the rest of the community. And they will eventually, or they might have to shut their doors. But yeah, I think those that embrace the more inclusive mindset and be like, hey, we want the sick people, we want the overweight people, not just the pipe hitters and the super fit folks.
Right.
I think those people, A, it makes for a better community, but I think B, over time you will have incredibly effective trainers because they've just dealt with such a diverse population, and there's not much that's going to stump them.
Yep. Yeah.
I did a seminar with a woman 2 weeks ago who she was a 3-limb amputee, and I remember like 5 or 6 years ago that would have freaked me out. Like I would not have known what to do. But over time, when you just work with so many athletes and you don't rule people out, like I'm like, okay, we can deal with that.
Yeah.
Easy day. Like we'll sort it out. And you do.
Yep.
And you find out they're like, oh, anybody can do this stuff.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
At some level, anybody can do it.
But I love that. I agree. I love that part of the community. I think it's the most important piece. You can't find it anywhere else. There's no other fitness community that can even come close to what CrossFit has developed. Like nothing. I've never found it anywhere.
I agree. I have an Orange Theory. Have you ever done Orange Theory?
I've not. I'm not opposed to it, though.
I know. So, funny story. So, I was in Las Vegas a couple years ago visiting my best friend growing up. He's a Southwest pilot out there. So, I would typically go out and go to a CrossFit gym. But he goes, let's go to Orange Theory. I just joined this new Orange Theory thing. I said, what is that? And he was like, well, it's some rowing and some running on the treadmill. And then there's some floor exercise. And it's like, well, it's kind of like CrossFit. It's called Orange Theory. And you wear this, you wear this heart monitor thing. And so 15 minutes on every station. And okay, she splits you up. She goes, okay, anybody wants to go rower, go rower. So I'm going rower. And they have these weird rowers. They have these water in them.
Yep.
It's really weird. All right, you're going to row. It's like 600 meters or something like that. And then, after that, you're going to go over to the floor and do something. I'll tell you what you're going to do. So I'm like, I'm going to crush this rower. All these girls in here, I'm going to crush this rower. I go. I'm going to weed everybody. One of my not so humble moments of trying to just chill, but I want to be competitive.
I'm going to win.
My badass self's I crushed the rower. I just crushed the rower. And I'm like, oh, cool, I get to rest. She goes, I said, what's next? You get to plank for 4 minutes while everybody else goes rower.
I would have slowed down had I known that.
Should have just rode slow.
What did I just win?
Just another life lesson, man.
Oh, man.
Just throw your ego out the door because it'll only get you in trouble.
What am I going to win? Nothing. I'm going to win humiliation.
I won 4 minutes of...
It's interesting. I don't have any beef with Orange Theory, and I largely would encourage anybody to do anything, any type of movement. I think is great. I do think from a business standpoint, I think they've cornered the market on the heart rate monitor stuff.
Yeah.
Although I do think it's a little bit problematic from a sense that I don't think they're effectively communicating the value of it. And what I mean by that is, so in our new facility, we're going to do that. So the
Executive
Revive Fitness, which will not be CrossFit. We're trying to go to a broader community, but we're going to use the heart rate monitor. But what I think is important about the heart rate monitor is, absent of any other information, that metric is useless. So a lot of people will look at heart rate and be like, oh, my heart rate was whatever. I'm like, yeah, but what were you doing? And then I think what I feel people are doing is trying to push that heart rate rather than having what I would consider to be a more intelligent conversation. Is that, can you bring your heart rate down while accomplishing the same amount of work?
Exactly.
Can you limit your biological output while maximizing your physical work accomplished? And I don't think they're educating people on that, which is like, I don't want your heart rate at 180. I'd love it if it was at 140 doing the exact same amount of work, because now we are quantifiably fitter than we were before.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just, I think they're just kind of mindlessly, and I get it from a business standpoint, like people want to see the number.
Yeah.
It's like, if I don't get to 180, like I'm not working hard.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's a different conversation. But I do think heart rate has a place.
No question.
I think it has you see it a lot more in the endurance community when they largely work off of RPE, but I just think that, or perceived rate of exertion, PRE, sorry, I just don't think they're having the conversation with proper context. Meaning, like, you should be having a conversation about heart rate because it is relevant, as long as it's relevant with other information.
Right.
So I took this class with this swimming guru. Teaches a lot of the team guys to swim, and we swam for 5 days consecutively. Basically, got in the pool, we just swam for 8 hours, and we did a test in and a test out. And the test in was just a 50-meter side stroke, and you measured time, number of strokes, and heart rate. And from day 1 to day 5, the time went down, the strokes went down, and my heart rate went down. And I'm like, that's efficiency.
Absolutely.
Covering the exact same distance. And that's where I think that stuff can be useful, is like educating people on like why it's useful and what we're actually trying to do with it. And it's not always peg it to the ceiling.
Absolutely. I think everybody should wear a heart rate doing something. I mean, I think if you if you've never worn a heart rate, whether it's doing CrossFit or going for a run or whatever, you should do it, and you should do it for 6 months. Because at some point you learn, you can take the heart rate monitor off and feel and have a general idea of what range your heart rate is.
That's fair.
And you begin to understand your heart rate and how, just like you said, how I can achieve the same output and reduce my heart rate. It may be a mental thing. It may be changing the way I breathe. There's ways to bring your heart rate down while you're working out hard.
Or just understanding.
Mentally, just understanding how to do that. And it's, and then you can understand that I can go and then you understand how you've gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do it for 6 months and you're working out on a regular basis, you will see just what you saw in 5 days with your swimming.
And I also think you can learn to, it's another data point that helps you make more educated decisions where you can look at it from a standpoint of, okay, if I exceed this heart rate, this is generally when I crash, and then the rest of the workout goes to crap.
Right.
Well, if you can see that metric, that allows you to throttle correctly so that you can actually get the workout done faster because we've avoided going over the cliff.
And having to stop.
And rest and all that stuff. So I just think it's we're going to test it at the new facility, and I'm pretty much convinced that we're going to bring that capability to the other 2 facilities because I do think it has value. I don't think it's something that people should be putting too much emphasis on, but I do think it has value. I do think it has absolute value.
I just think it's just one small measurable thing that you can see over a long period of time how you've improved. And
there's definitely some interesting training days. You could have training days that are solely predicated on heart rate. Those have value.
Yeah.
I don't think you should do those all the time, but I do think you could mix those in and it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, your stimulus is your heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think that has a lot of value.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Cool. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, so we're almost at an hour. A couple things. I know you listen to a lot of podcasts because you said it before we started here. You listen to mostly golf podcasts?
Well, what I'm listening to is usually on the radio on Sirius. Just listen to golf, PGA radio.
Yep.
I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I do try to watch the ones that seem to interest me that you guys put together. So, yeah, it's just a lot of information out there.
It's just too much almost.
Yeah.
Are you a reader? Do you read books?
Not as much.
Okay. Have you read any good books lately?
Nope.
Seen any good documentaries?
Nope.
We watched The Dirt last night about Motley Crue.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a book. It's based off of the book The Dirt about Motley Crue. It's a pretty interesting. It's aggressive, so it's R, everybody. Yeah. It's Motley Crue.
Somebody else was telling me that.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that story, just those guys and that whole thing is kind of bonkers.
Right.
But it's interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know this, I end every podcast with, I give everybody the opportunity to ask me any question they want. So, you get to ask me any question you want about anything.
What's been one of your biggest challenges as a business owner in CrossFit?
Ooh. I actually think I know the answer to that. I think my biggest challenge has been continuing to develop myself to fit the needs of the business. So as you go through, and I'm sure you've been through this in different stages, at some point it's kind of like the E-Myth where you're either the baker or the manager or the owner, and all of those have different skill sets. So, continuing to try to develop my skills to fit what the business needs at that point, and then something I've been woefully bad at over the years is communicating the vision to the team, and then taking that and then communicating that vision to the community, because it's super important, and it's far more important than I previously thought it was. So that's been the most challenging part for me is trying to keep pace with making sure that I don't get stagnant as a person, as a coach, as a business owner, and then making sure that I'm trying to communicate that effectively with the staff so that they're developing as well. That's a never-ending deal, because everybody's needs and wants change over time. So you're constantly dealing with that over and over and over. But I find it incredibly rewarding and it's fun.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a vague answer, but
so a second tier to that question is how have you been influenced by, I'll call them your employees, but your staff? Because I know I have in my business as a business owner. And I've sort of evolved that way, sort of as I evolved with CrossFit. So ego has dropped way off, and it's about scaling. And for me as a business owner, as I've matured, it's been about listen and take from your staff, from your business family is what I like to call it, because we're a family. They don't work for me. We work together. But the more attitude like that I've developed over the years, the better boss or business owner that I've become, and a more successful business, less turnover.
Yeah,
people buy in. They feel like they've had input. Anyway.
No, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that is probably one of the biggest changes I've made, more specifically over the past 4 years probably, is just being very open to feedback. Sometimes that feedback is pretty painful when you give your coaches or your team the freedom to say, hey, you kind of suck at this. That can be a hard one to swallow, particularly for people who have any amount of pride. But I will tell you this. I've taken all of that to heart, and anytime somebody has given me that feedback, the team has gotten better because of the feedback. The business has gotten better because of the feedback. I've gotten better because of the feedback. So I think it's always, the challenge is trying to continue to get people to give you feedback.
Right.
Because sometimes people are afraid that there's, repercussions for the feedback when there's not.
Right.
So yeah, no, I would agree 100% that that's, listen, shut your mouth a little bit more. And that what I think, I don't remember who told me this, but the important piece is there's two parts of that. You get the feedback, but the more important piece is you have to implement the feedback.
Right.
So if somebody gives you an action item, there needs to be action on that. Otherwise, that's when you used to get people that are resistant to giving you feedback. Because oh, he doesn't listen, he doesn't care.
Right. Right.
So a lot of times, people come to me with ideas, and I'm like, do it. Just tell me what you need.
Right.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm the backstop.
That's powerful.
So, yeah, I'm the backstop. So I'm here if you need me, and you tell me what resources you need. That's a pretty powerful question from a leader standpoint. Is what do you need from me?
Right.
And then deliver that.
Right.
And then it's pretty cool to see people do stuff.
Have you had staff leave and start their own gym?
Nope. I hope so. I hope one day that one of them or two of them or any of them do.
Yeah.
I would consider myself a failure if nobody left this establishment and went on to do their own thing. I'd love to keep them all, but at some point we're all going to break up. So
right. Right.
I think I'm not opposed to that. I just think from a leadership standpoint, you would like it to be on mutual terms.
Sure.
Somebody's like, I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's map that out and figure out what that looks like.
That's
so
ideal,
that we can
sure.
replace you, but you can get what you want out of this too. So
right.
I'm going to try to keep them all, but at the same time, I'm going to try to kick them out too.
Right.
Kick them out to, to whatever their next chapter is going to be. So,
Sure.
But yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So we'll see.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Awesome. If you guys have any questions for us or for Todd, go ahead and hit us up. You can hit us up on social media, CrossFit Rife, on Facebook, on Instagram. You can hit us up on CrossFitRife.com. Hit us up on all those. And appreciate your time, sir.
Hey, man.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Appreciate it.
All right. See you guys next time. See ya.